Hey there, everybody. I am happy to check in with you all always, but a whole lot has changed since I checked in with you all on Friday and did the reading. Woke up, we all woke up Saturday morning, right? Okay. So I'm being led today to look at, bottom line, are we in and headed into World War III? Going to take a look at that because we see the momentum building. We see the various nations, even our European allies, which, by the way, I came across some information that made it just all click and make sense. That while we saw and understood this incredible military buildup from the United States throughout the region, right? So we knew it was coming. But in particular, there is this USS Gerald Ford. I'm looking at my notes over here. USS Gerald Ford and the positioning of that. This is a $13 billion warship that, of all the places strategically that it could have been placed throughout that region, and we know about the buildup, this particular warship apparently is placed right outside of Israel. Why? Because we're being told there's a lot of reporting out there. Check it out for yourselves. USS Gerald Ford, because the Trump knew going into this that there was going to be a lot of backlash around there was no imminent threat. And indeed, we hear that now, certainly Democratic members of Congress are saying they're calling for a vote on the War Powers Act. Not so sure that that's going to go anywhere. In fact, Spirit is telling me go ahead and let's start and look at that. Spirit, the War Powers Act, is that going to gain momentum to impede this administration, Trump and company, from just unfettered, unchecked power to do what they're doing and to make these moves? Will there be, there's the Chariot. So we are going to see, and I'm not going to ignore it because it's a major arcana behind it. Ooh, two more. And the Fool just came at the bottom of the deck. All right. The Chariot. That's the push to put forward this War Powers Act, to enforce it, to push back and basically say, you cannot continue to do this without congressional input, say, and if necessary, approval. So that's the Chariot. The Empress is the safety of the people and the world. This is what I feel is more pointing to the World War III. This is the Empress cares for the people, cares for nations, cares for accessibility. We know gas prices and oil is about to go crazy right now. So that's why the Empress is coming up. It is about protection of the people, protection of the nations. But then we have the Fool. And I think this is pointing to the risks that not only the risks that Trump and this action has put the United States in, but also the fact that in the Fool, it's congressional members, Republican GOP, being foolish in their continued support for this man. I don't know that they are going to be successful in challenging him, because that goes back to the point that Spirit was, and there's the Page of Cups. It's the desire to show resistance to this is clearly growing, and I think we're going to see some Republican members of Congress join with Democrats to express that. But the idea is they position this, going back to the USS Gerald Ford, they position this ship, you all, this warship, because the idea is to deliberately put, for entertainment purposes only, to deliberately put certain warships in place that they would come under attack. That when Iran was able to, push back, which we see they're already unloading, that if once they had an excuse to say, okay, now our personnel, our ships have been attacked, so therefore we have to do that. That's that Page of Cups. That's that in a negative aspect of the Page of Cups. Normally that's a positive energy, but this is congressional support built on the fact that, and the King of Cups comes behind it. And this is somebody within Congress that argues this is why we have to support what Trump is doing, because our ships and our personnel are under attack. We already know that we've lost some troops and more. Three already, but I read this morning that there was already a fourth. And we have our Ace of Wands, which, if you've been with me before, you know when I get aces, that's my spirit guide's way of saying I'm on track with it. So that's it. I don't think, sadly, I don't think that we're going to see the War Powers Act or the push to stop him, because by the time that gains some momentum, there probably will have already been, in addition to the troops that have already been harmed, that there will be more. And that's going to be the justification for, okay, maybe there's a point in saying the initial attacks, or the U.S. given the initial orders to get involved in this were illegal. If there was no imminent threat, etc. Now there is. That was the plan, and the plan was to put these things strategically. That's why there was such a huge buildup there, because they knew at some point there's going to be justification. There will be retaliation and justification to say, well, now we've been attacked, so this is why we have to do it. Now, meanwhile, we understand that Netanyahu got on his plane. We saw the plane go somewhere. There are reports that his government plane, Netanyahu's government plane, is parked in Berlin. So he's flown to safety, but we don't have verification that he's necessarily on the plane. But I'm like, why did they send his government plane there just to park? He has not been seen, Netanyahu, but I want to ask, Spirit, did Netanyahu flee? Did he basically flee to safety? Because we know, of course, Iran is saying we're going to target his offices, his government. The son, you all, he got out of Dodge, and he's sitting there somewhere ensconced, right? Now, second thing, is he ultimately, Netanyahu, is he going to did Trump or will Trump promise him exile if necessary to protect him? Because he can't go back. Where's he going to go? Where he will be safe? Where's he going to go? Right? All right, Spirit. Will Netanyahu wind up here? The magician. Y'all don't be surprised. Will he wind up here? Is he going to flee to the U.S. for safety? Eight of Swords, the backlash from that. He's afraid of that even. He's tremendously afraid. He almost feels like he wouldn't be safe here or anywhere. And I look, and even in this image, I'm reading from the Tarot of Sacred Kingdoms for those of you who read. Look at that image where that figure is hidden inside of that tree. That is so the energy of Netanyahu right about now. And that's why he sucked Trump into this, because he knew that he was going to have to flee, and so he needed somebody else. There's the Five of Wands, the conflict there. The American people will lose their you-know-what if Trump tries to bring that man here to hide him and bring him in, keep him safe. Now, that also leads to, and the Page of Cups comes back. Spirit, why is the Page of Cups energy so strong in this? Why? Show me, because that's not accidental. The Three of Wands. Growing sentiment. Wow. Growing sentiment to make American people sympathetic toward Israel and Netanyahu in particular. All right? To make people sympathetic, to change and build the dialogue, to manipulate people's emotions around why the U.S. has to do this, why the U.S. has to be involved. Wow. Because the Three of Wands is that growth. And I also feel like the Three of Wands is the allies, our European allies, getting sucked into this now, which therefore World War III, right? The Celestial Weaver is, it's like a bonus major arcana card in this deck. This is what the World War III, de facto, whether we actually, how it's classified. But this is also increasingly to have these nations have to come together and help one another. That was another thing I saw in the reporting around this USS Gerald Ford, was because of course then you have, if the US is directly attacked, then you have NATO, you have the allies, even fractured as those relationships are, they are still in place. So now you have justification and you have an obligation from the allies to get involved. And I think that's what this celestial weaver, weaving the nations together to strengthen against Iran. Wow. This was calculated. This was planned. We also understand now that the what's his name, Salman, Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince, had been on the phone directly with Trump in recent months, because the Saudi Arabia was also pushing. It wasn't just Israel and Netanyahu, that Saudi Arabia was also pushing for this attack on Iran. But we're hearing also that there are leaders out of Saudi Arabia, and now we're hearing this morning that the oil refineries, if I can get my words out, the oil refineries in Saudi Arabia some of them are on fire, as well as Qatar. So this is backfiring in terms of, they felt like, let me check myself. What I'm getting is they felt that they could rely on the US's support in the same manner and vein that the US would give it to Israel, and that's not going to be the case. Spirit. Therefore, that's why we kept seeing Witkoff and Kushner keep going over there in the talks, because we know Kushner's relationship to MBS, Salman. Spirit. Are we going to see a backfire with the relationship with Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries in the Middle East because of promises that were made and not kept? We have the Ten of Wands. It's too much. The U.S. is overextended, or will soon be overextended. Remember, initially we heard, okay, so we're going to do this, but it would just be from the air, right? And now, by air or by sea or by ground, right? There's it's too much. The Ten of Wands, as many of you know if you read tarot, it's just where the burden is, like where the bow breaks, right? And so these promises were made. You had Kushner and Witkoff going, talking to others in the Middle East, these other Middle Eastern leaders, and saying, we got your back, we hear you, we're going to do something about it, while at the same time making all of these promises to Israel. It's too much. And we're already hearing that, Spirit, is there truth to what we're hearing, that the U.S.'s military supplies will run out sooner rather than later? Is there going to be a risk of that? We have the Two of Swords. Where's it going to come from? Decisions of how to use it. I think that's what we're seeing there. There's a conflict in how much do we use to preserve what may be a longer situation than we were told. And the Ace of Pentacles. Spirit is giving me another confirmation. All right. So that is another thing that's about to come up. You've got these military leaders. We've already heard that the Pentagon, military leaders were telling the Pentagon going into this, we don't have as much as you think we have, right? Just heard about the, so-called friendly fire out of Kuwait. 3 F-1 jets. Thank goodness the troops, they were able to eject and they're okay. But each of those jets, we're told, were worth anywhere between $30 million to $100 million. Right? The expense of this, the enormity of this, the cost of this, and that Two of Swords is, how do we even decide how to utilize what we have? Because stockpiles of these supplies are not as long and strong as we're being led to believe. Wow, y'all, wow. And there's the Four of Swords. Is this the military leadership beginning to report back to the Pentagon and saying we're in trouble? They saying we're in trouble. Temperance. Got to slow down. Got to slow down. Got to. This is a card of moderation. Got to figure out you overpromised, and you're putting us in a position of having to basically underdeliver, or putting our people increasingly at risk, putting our troops increasingly at risk because we don't have. I saw some things. We got to be so careful about the news that we're getting and the sources that we're getting it from. But I saw some things where people were. People's families of military who are stationed in the Middle East were saying that there was tremendous concern around how much ammunition and equipment that they had and how long they could make it last. So that's going to definitely be an issue. Spirit, please show me in general what's next. Like, where is this prolonged, protracted? What's next for Trump and this administration in this situation as it grows? What's next? What do we need to be aware of? What do we need to anticipate? What do we need to be aware of? What's next? Where is this going? Will it be protracted? We have the King of Cups who comes again at the bottom of the deck. Who is this? Is that a military leader? Who's the King of Cups? And what are they saying? The Emperor. This is someone who has Trump's ear, and or this is another foreign leader, I think, who is going to have a very strong voice in the extension of this and getting it under wraps. Because the thing is, remember, and the Seven of Cups, the choices that have to be made. Remember, even back before all of this happened and when Trump started making demands on our allies, look, we're not going to give you as much military support. You've got to put more into your own defense spending. Well, guess what? That's what whoever this leader or leaders are that come up, through our allies. I feel this could be Macron from France. This could be Keir Starmer, the UK, who we understand made, had some words with Trump because I think I don't know if they said we couldn't use their military bases or certain military bases in the UK to launch attacks against Iran, but there's something there where we're going to see increasingly our allies saying this is not sustainable and some choices have to be made to pull this back or wrap this up. Meanwhile, we've got Iran saying, all right, you started this, we're going all in. They knew this was coming. We're also understanding that there had been, as of Friday, some concessions that Iran's leadership was making and saying, okay, well, I don't know about concessions, you get it, but there was a tone of a genuine desire to prevent this. Why wouldn't there have been? And then lo and behold, by the next day, it was done. But they were not caught off guard. They had been preparing for this. Spirit, where's this going? The Empress, a gathering of the nations. Show me more, please. And the Four of Wands, definitely a gathering of the nations in resistance to this. The King of Swords. I don't know why I just heard Carney. And the Five of Pentacles. It makes no the cost of this, the enormity of this, personnel, forces, equipment, and the actual cost to people, to countries, to nations because of this. That's what's going to, and that's why I think the Empress came out as well, second time, right, in this reading, because again, this represents creation, it represents nurturing, it represents sustenance, it represents chain supplies, food being interrupted potentially, certainly gas prices and energy, all of this around energy and the desire for it. And spirit, does this tie into Venezuela? That's why he went and got took out Maduro and took I know the oil was rough, Ten of Swords, Ten of Pentacles. So Ten of Swords we know is completely stressed out and betrayal of the Ten of Pentacles. The desire was to weaken Iran as a leading oil producer, right? Very, very tied to China, we know. Speaking of which, but let me finish one thought before I get to the next. I'm sorry. Thanks for bearing with me. So there is that, yes, Venezuela, and that's what I'm saying. Like, spirit is showing, they say hindsight is 2020, and every single step that we've seen playing out since last year, since that what was it, June or July, that they supposedly took out Iran's nuclear capabilities, right? And then it was like, oh, well, maybe not. This was all part of the plan, and that is also why they went after Venezuela and took took the oil, even though we know that apparently that oil is not easily refined, but it is usable. Spirit is bottom line. They're just telling me jump to the bottom line. Oh gosh, and I just heard, will there be repercussions on U.S. soil? Will there be repercussions on U.S. soil? The Two of Cups, certainly a desire for it, and I feel like this is Iranian's leadership, because they're still solid, right? They're still solid, even after Khomeini's death. They're still solid. So this is. They have declared that essentially Netanyahu and Trump, that's who they want. And the Ace of Wands, Spirit is confirming that. That's who we're seeing. They understand this is not the will of the American people, right? It's not to say that that they forgive and forget or any of that, but they do understand. I'm talking about the Iranian leadership that is now coming into power. They understand that this is not the will of the people, that this is the will of these governmental leaders. Will they attack on U.S. soil? The Chariot, they're coming, y'all. They're coming. This is a big deal, and the very idea, the smugness, the arrogance of thinking that they could essentially, we're gonna come knock you down, and you better not try to get back up. It's not work. It won't work there. It just won't work. Now, China, that pinged because China relies, as I understand it, very much on Iran for its oil. Will China get involved here? The Knight of Swords, there's already conversations. And I want to say, somebody tell me if I'm wrong. I want to say that we've heard something recently about Trump planning a trip to China. Is China going to get involved here on behalf of Iran? The Wheel of Fortune, karma, destiny, things moving along. There is a chance, ruled by Jupiter as well, growth, expansion of nations getting involved in this war. Will we see China get involved? The Two of Swords, they don't want to. There's the conflict. They're trying to make decisions about what they can do or what they should do. And there's the Sun. That energy that we saw a little while ago around these men or man leaders that say financially and otherwise this is not sustainable. I think that's going to be China's role with the Sun. Is they're going to come in not so much to start adding to the fray, but to come in because like that military is one you don't want to play with for sure, right? I think they're going to come in a way that helps. I don't want to say helps bring peace, but that helps slow down Trump's momentum. because that's nothing to play with. China's nothing to play with. And there's the tower. Thank you, Spirit. Yes. Somehow, very interesting combination to come back to back. The sun, when we're looking at China, the sun and then the tower. I think that when it gets to that point, that China has to make its entry one way or another, militarily or diplomatically or negotiations, etc. But when they come into that, then it's like, okay, we can't, right? Because the U.S. at that point, even Congress realizes, bitten off way more than we can chew, bitten off way more than we can chew. Spirit, the last thing that I want to look at around this, at least for today, clearly we're going to be, we need to stay on top of this energy for a while, is a lot of stuff's been coming up around April, being a very interesting timeline, in terms of Trump being sidelined one way or another. Now, interestingly, too, we know that when all of this was going down, JD was not in the room. JD was in some other room, some other place on a separate line. All of this was happening from Mar-a-Lago, interestingly enough. But this was Rubio and Hegseth, etc., sitting up with Trump with that doggone cap on. JD had just come out, was it Thursday or Friday, and said, listen, don't panic, everybody. There's no way that we're going to get involved. The U.S. is going to get involved in some long, protracted thing. And, which, maybe that should have even been a warning signal, right? Because we know when it comes out of his mouth one way, the reality as a whole is a different way. But is this setting the stage for Trump's exit? Either we've been looking at health concerns for a long time. Oh, what's at the bottom? Page of Pentacles, it's starting. Or a plan has started. Is this him exiting one way or another? Health, because he's a target. Is he out? Strength. The Page of Pentacles, so that's the start of plans, building. And I also feel like there's a timeline here. And this is Vance. He's a Leo. Strength represented by Leo, the lion. Is this a plan for JD to get ready to step in? Because he's going to exit. Trump is going to exit one way or another. The Six of Cups. That's what some people want. The Wheel of Fortune. Karma coming for him. And a growing momentum to get him out of there. And I feel that's growth both with and there's the world. Yeah. Okay. By April, something's really interesting is going to take place. And I'm feeling like a few different scenarios. One could be that by that time, based on everything we see playing out, that financially and otherwise, there will be enough resistance, perhaps even congressional by that point, that he's got to go. They just got to, no more. Line in the sand, line being crossed already 3 times, enough, he's got to go. That Wheel of Fortune, and then the world, enough already, like ready for a different situation. And then death. Okay, I'll stop right there. All right? The world, death. I'll stop right there. You get it. All right? Wow. Okay. Second thing I wanted to look at today, I know many of you, let me cleanse the deck. Many of you have been asking about, tomorrow is the primaries, several primaries, North Carolina, Arkansas, and of course Texas. Texas is the one I want to look at because we know that this is the showdown between Jasmine Crockett and Talarico, James Talarico. Y'all, so the idea, of course, is the argument is being made not so much in who's better qualified or whose platform is better between Talarico and Jasmine Crockett. The argument that's being made is who could win over Paxton, because it's kind of sort of looking like Paxton. Why, you know, there is no explanation, no plausible explanation for why, based on everything that's known about this guy. But Cornyn is in trouble apparently, and I guess we'll see the results of the primaries around that too. But my point is, so the argument is being made who between Crockett and Talarico stands the better chance against Paxton. Spirit, please show me. And this is something that I do sometimes when I just want a bottom line answer from Spirit, is I'm gonna ask for the justice card between Jasmine Crockett on my left, well, your right, and Talarico. When that'll show me, I'm asking for the justice card to come for who will win that primary tomorrow between Jasmine Crockett and James Talarico, okay? Thank you, Spirit. Thank you so much. I appreciate your guidance, your protection, your wisdom, your light, your love, especially now. Okay. Jasmine Crockett, James Talarico, please show me the justice card for who wins the primary in Texas tomorrow. Justice card for who wins tomorrow. Watch it make me go all through the deck. Crockett, Talarico, Crockett, Talarico, Crockett, Talarico, Crockett, Talarico. We got Crockett. We got Crockett. All right. All right. That's what we got. Let's see what happens. Oh, please let it be real. Please let it be real. Please let it be real. All right, you all. That's what I got for today. Please, please, please take care of yourselves. Please keep our military families and troops in your prayers, because it's horrible the way that they are being used right now, paying a price that is not theirs to pay. It's not any of ours to pay, right? Last thing I want to mention on a high note is we know that apparently, I think it's a true story. I'm going to check more into it and encourage you to as well. But Minneapolis, first time ever that a city is being nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Woo, certainly deserving, right? Certainly deserving. So, in our hearts, the people of Minneapolis and the example that they've set for all of us, as well as so many others around the nation, and needed now more so than ever. That No Kings protest on the 28th of this month is going to be a humdinger, as the old folks used to say. That's going to be a humdinger. We'll look more into that a little bit later. Take good care of yourselves. I'll check in with you soon. And no, I don't go off without our chin up. Man, is it rough right now, but chin up, shoulders back, right? Remember, sky above us. I started saying you and then it was a us. That's what I stumbled over. Sky above us, right? The heavens, light, source. Earth beneath us, grounding us. We saw that Empress card keep coming up. Mother Earth really wanting to support us and not liking what she sees right now. And soul within us, one by one, collectively supporting one another. All right? I'll talk to you real soon. Be good. Bye.